We are greatly honored to have with us Christian Dustmann, who is the Professor of Economics at the University College London, and he's also Director of the ROCKWOOL Foundation Berlin. Professor, do join us on stage and do share your valuable insights with us. Professor.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk here. Migration is a subject which I have been working on basically for the last 30 years, and I can tell you 30 years ago nobody really spoke much about migration. So this has dramatically changed. The topic of the 15 minutes I have to talk about migration is the migrant economy turning movements into momentum. Now, let me start with some trends in international migration. Over the last, 35 years or so, the number of international migrants, and they are defined as individuals who live in another country than where they are born, has basically doubled from 141 million to 282 million. And those numbers don't even include the dramatic migrations we are seeing within countries. For instance, from the rural areas in China to the urban areas, and similar migrations in India and in many other countries. So migration has become a very important issue. You may now say, well, the population has also increased, which is very true, and if we correct those numbers, we still see a large increase of international migration. So what is the contribution of India here? Well, the percentage of Indian migrants across the entire migrant population has also slightly increased but stabilized in recent years. 2024, about 6% of all international migrants have been born in India. Now, why is migration so important? Well, first of all, migration creates opportunity. Where someone is born determines their future opportunities and the wealth they can accumulate over their life cycle. If we are lucky enough to be born in a prosperous country, our opportunities are, of course, much better. And as Raj Chetty from Harvard has shown, even within the US, there are huge differences in economic opportunity and life cycle wealth according where you are born. So those who are born in poorer countries face more restricted economic opportunity, reduced possibility to enhance their productivity through learning, and lower wages for their work than those who are born in richer countries. Now, one way to improve this situation is actually to move to richer countries. While this is basically unquestioned when it takes place within a country, there is a lot of politically controversial talk about migration across countries, as we all know. So what's the economist's view about migration? Well, despite very large potential gains in global output through migration, there are very severe restrictions. And Adam Smith, one of the fathers of modern economics, noted already on the cost to preventing free mobility, saying that by obstructing the free circulation of labor from place to place, occasions in some cases in very inconvenient inequality in the whole of the advantages and disadvantages of their different employment. The possibilities of international migration are severely limited, and they are mainly limited due to restrictions in those countries where the productivity of labor is actually very high. Now, let's think about the simplest possible framework to kind of learn a little bit about the economic and political implications of migration, the most simple framework we can think about. So we have two countries. We have a rich country and we have a poor country. And we have migration from the poor country to the rich country. So what happens? Well, first of all, it increases wages in the emigration country where wages are low, because you take people off the labor market in that country, and therefore the value of labor becomes higher. So productivity increases. It decreases wages in the immigration country where wages are high. It increases the gains to capital in the immigration country, but it decreases the gains to capital in the emigration country. It creates, most importantly, a very significant migration surplus, which is basically created by individuals improving their productivity because they move from a country where their productivity is low to a country where their productivity is high. Now, overall, there is a total gain in world output, but there is also redistribution. Some are gaining, but some others may actually lose. And that's very important to understand the political economy of migration. So who are the gainers? Well, certainly the migrant, but also the non-migrant in the origin country and the owners of capital in the destination country. Who are the potential losers? Well, workers in the destination country and the owners of capital in the origin country. Overall, there is a total gain in world output, which is far larger than the losses. If we look at global welfare, those gains may be even larger because giving an additional dollar to a poor individual will increase welfare by much more than giving an additional dollar to a rich individual. And migration will decrease inequality between countries. So what is the political debate we have at the moment? Well, it's actually between the owners of capital in the destination country, and that includes people like Elon Musk, who really want skills to come to the US, and workers in the destination country who may actually believe, at least, that they are disadvantaged through migration. So these are basically the two political camps which discuss the benefits and of migration. Now, the other gainers, the migrant himself or herself and the non-migrant worker in the origin country are never really considered in political debate. What are the political implications? Well, the simple considerations, the simplest possible model tells us are that migration creates global welfare gains, but it also has distributional effects. There are winners and there are also losers. Although the winners win far more than the losers, the distributional effects have political consequences which are important. They mirror the huge policy challenges governments in the global north face. On the one hand, to allow labor migration to respond to the demands of industry, the owners of capital. On the other hand, to restrict migration, that can't be, to respond to the demands of parts of the general population, and these are the voters. Now, there are other economic incentives for movement, generosity of social insurance, for instance, which has the potential to undermine the benefits of free movement by creating motivations and incentives that are not aligned with economic gains. Therefore, free migration areas, like for instance the European Union, has been very hard working on harmonizing tax rules and transfer rules in order to eliminate those incentives which actually counter economic gains of migration. There are non-economic reasons for movements: oppressed groups, individuals exploited by the corrupt, and those persecuted for reasons such as religion or race will have reason to move to other countries, and extreme cases of these reasons that induce such movements are addressed in the 1951 Geneva Convention relating to the status of refugees. And 144 countries have been signatories of that particular convention. Now, the share of refugees or the number of refugees and asylum seekers have increased with the increase of conflict, but also now increasingly with the consequences of global warming. Non-economically motivated resistance to migration, which is the last point I want to raise here, are actually very, very important. And these non-economic concerns are related to homogeneity, to race, to cultural prejudice, and they are more impactful on the way individuals form their views about migration than actually economic concerns. In the study we have conducted about 10 years ago, we show that by factor 5, those cultural resistance reasons are more important than reasons which are related to the economy. That is why migration is the ideal subject for populist political movements, particularly potent in the rise of populist parties. Just to illustrate that, if we look at the main issues for populist parties just in Europe, so we look at the three main issues in the party programs of populist parties. We take Fratelli d'Italia, its growth, family immigration, Vox in Spain, its family nationalism, immigration, Rassemblement National, its taxes, family and immigration, RFD, its Euroscepticism, crime and immigration, etc., etc. Immigration is always the number one issue on the party program of any right-leaning populist party in Europe. And we can continue to Sweden, Denmark, etc. So it is always immigration. So how do we turn movements into momentum? Well, the economic argument is pretty clear. There are large global gains when individuals move to where their productivity is highest. Migration helps individuals and has always helped individuals to escape poverty and to improve their livelihoods. Destination countries benefit by filling skill shortages, and increasingly in European countries and in 20 years, also in many Asian countries, if not already today, like in Korea, addressing the demographic decline. However, the economic gains of migration are unequally distributed, and that leads to disparities in political support. What is even more important are the non-economic concerns, such as homogeneity, race, and cultural prejudice, which are key factors in the recent rise of populist parties, which also move centrist parties' views about migration into a far more restrictive direction. The main political challenges is therefore to design policies that maximize the economic benefits while at the same time carefully addressing cultural resistance. Now, the only kind of part of the migration equation which has significant benefits are migrants and those who are left behind, but they, in this debate, lack strong advocacy and are very often overlooked. If you are interested in more information, please look at our websites. Thank you very much.
Professor Dustmann, Christian Dustmann, Professor of Economics at University College London, Director of the ROCKWOOL Foundation Berlin. Great to get those insights on migration, the migrant economy, and turning movements into momentum.